Good morning, Mr. Chairman. It's December 16th. Representative Kidder.
Here.
Representative Larson.
Here.
Representative Schwartz. Representative Simpson. Representative Stith.
Here.
Representative Walters.
Here.
Senator Garou.
Here.
Senator Hicks. Senator Salazar.
Here.
Senator Steinmetz.
Here.
Co-Chairman Nicholas.
Here.
Chairman Kinski.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum for purposes of reimbursement. Representative Henderson.
Here.
Representative Sherwood. Representative Swanister Dave.
Here.
Senator Anderson.
Here.
Senator Nethercott. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So we have some unfinished business and this is the order that we're going to take it in. We're going to start with tabled items. Then we will go to member amendments. And we'll finish with the judiciary letter. And by the tabled items, I'm referring to a memo of Thursday, December 15th from staff outlining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 open items. So, and that's the order. This is the order we'll take. It's agency order. And so the first open item that I believe we tabled it, Mr. Chairman, is that correct? Do we need a motion to take from the table or we just take it from the table?
Held it.
Okay, this is Governor's Office coal marketing, Senator Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if you'll allow me, if we, with some conversation, I think that both sides have had with the executive branch, we elected to maybe put this in agency 90. So with your permission, I would request that we open agency 90.
Second. Or quit. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Mr. Chairman, agency 90 is the Energy Authority, and I would put $500,000 in for coal marketing into their budget.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Senator Larson. Move to close. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, B. This is Department of A&I Risk Management, and I have Senator Representative Nicholas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Increase the 4.6 million in the risk account to 6.6 million.
Second. You've heard the motion to amend.
Chairman,
Yes, Ms.
just for clarity, we're simply adding 2 million to the governor's rec.
Yeah. So I guess you've got to move governor's rec and then amend.
Governor's recommend. And that's $2 million.
Second, you've heard the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries as amended. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion
close.
carries. Motion to close. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. One more.
Oh, okay. All right. Belay that. Agency 6, A&I Capital Security, and I believe I am calling on Senator Hicks. Representative Larson.
Thank you. Move to deny governor's rec.
Second.
And I apologize for my mic. I moved to deny governor's rec of funding for 121.020 million for the capital security. And then we're going to, for the committee members, we're going to work with A&I to refine that a little bit on how we can keep the capital open and on weekends for the public and what that would require for security. And we'll come back and deal with that in the round robin. So motion at this time.
So we'll hear a follow-on motion from you in January.
Correct.
Okay, the motion is to deny Gov's rec. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Representative Larson. Move to close.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Hicks.
while we have A and I open, I've got a proposed footnote in the budget.
All
I'd
right.
like to include in the 300 series. I've provided that to staff. Elizabeth, could you read that back for us?
Of course, Mr. Chairman. The department shall survey all state employees working in Cheyenne as to whether they, one, if they retain their current position and salary, would they be interested in moving to Fremont County area and working out of a state office in Riverton? Two, if the state would help defray moving costs, would they be more inclined to move? And finally, ANI shall present results of the survey to the governor's office and the JAC by November 1st, 2023.
Questions?
You've heard the motion. Questions? Don.
Mr. Chairman, just two questions for preference. This arguably could appear either in the CapCon bill or the budget bill. Your preference is budget bill. Secondly, we would like to tie it to an appropriation. So rather than a section 300, if we could footnote the administrative portion of ANI, is that acceptable?
So, Mr. Chairman, I would move to include a $5,000 appropriation.
Second. Don, capital security, we didn't have a governor's rec or a motion on the table. It was just a discussion, correct? We don't have any other motions on the table on that, do we?
Mr. Chairman, you don't have any other motions. It was a governor's rec, and I believe it was Representative Larson who moved to reduce the governor's rec by $1,020,000.
Okay. You have heard Senator Hicks's motion and his move to amend by adding an appropriation of $5,000. Discussion. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. On the motion as amended, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Move to close.
Move to close. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next, state parks.
Move to open agency 24.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We left one recommendation under outdoor recreation undetermined, and we would make the motion to adopt Gov's rec.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Gov's rec. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Motion to close. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are now on State Construction Division Agency 27.
Move to open.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Pretty weak. All those opposed? Okay, majority carries. Who are we going to on this one?
I'll start out.
All right, Senator Hicks.
Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to do is move to item G on the agenda.
Which is $9 million SCCA major maintenance governor's rec.
I would move that we adopt the governor's rec.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Senator Hicks.
Mr. Chairman, to move back up to F. The motion would be to on the governor's rec would be to further amend and reduce the amount by $169,450,176,000.
Chairman,
Yes, Senator Representative Walters.
Before seconding, we need a little clarity because I don't believe that's anywhere but in the governor's profile. There's no recommendation for that. I think the motion should be if you go into the budget of 027 027 on pages 20 and 22, there's two projects, and then it would relay out in the table that you just don't accept that we accept the governor's recommendation because he denies those two projects.
Mr. Chairman,
there is no 169 million anywhere in the governor's budget. It's just shown in his profile.
Okay,
So maybe a little clarity from staff on the action needed.
Senator Rip Don.
Mr. Chairman, we did count that 169,450 in the governor's profile carried forward. So I think Senator Hicks's motion does provide some clarity. And if you wanted to accept a friendly amendment to also adopt the specific denial of those two projects, I think that would be crystal clear.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would adopt those as a friendly amendment to my motion.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm clear, the motion is to the governor's profile of 169,450,176 to change that to 0. And then to accept the governor's rec on the denial of certain select projects. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Was there an additional motion in that agency?
Mr. Chairman, there's an additional item on the list, and that is the how to fund the school capital construction account, but there's adequate funding in the account based on the actions that were just taken. I will confirm that with staff, but I don't think we have to take any action on this last item on the list.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would move to close agency
You've
27.
heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We're now on agency 227 Capcom. Moved to open. It's been moved to open. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Who's carrying this one?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll take the first stab at it, and then hopefully my call a friend of my colleagues can add on as. So, Mr. Chairman, I believe the motion would be to Gov's rec further amend. And what we're going to do there is, I believe the Gov's rec was 50. Mr. Chairman, can we just take a minute so we can get this right rather than just, because I think Mr. Chairman, I believe we got to amend the Gov's rec further than what's currently in there, or do we just reduce that and then bring back a whole series? There's two ways to go about that. We just have 5 minutes.
You want to just review it with staff?
Just grab let's go get this thing right.
Stand at ease.
Dawn and Elizabeth, you guys could just come back.
Yeah, we want to. I think we need to bring in your sheet.
Okay, we're back. Senator Hicks.
Mr. Chairman.
Please
Mr. Chairman, I would ask staff.
turn your mic on, please.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. What it wasn't, it's just back in.
It'll go green eventually.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Linda.
Mr. Chairman, I would move governor's rec and further amend to include a appropriation, an additional $104 million. And that would be consistent with, I'll just have staff read those numbers back.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the request is to add $70 million associated with inflationary costs at the University of Wyoming, and separately authorize $34 million for a state office building in Riverton. I also believe you're adding $1,405,533 to his initial $50 million to fully fund the state inflationary and community college inflationary number. That was slightly more than the original 50 of the governor. In addition, Mr. Chairman, I think there is a footnote associated with the expenditure of funds for UW, if you wanted me to articulate that or pause.
Please.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, a footnote on the $70 million inflationary appropriation to the University of Wyoming would require that this money be first used for residence halls and no other construction related to the west stands or the natatorium could be pursued without further legislative action, and that that additional work on the residence halls not be pursued until a guaranteed maximum price and signed contract for both residence halls is completed.
Mr. Chair, I am the chairman. We decided to remove GMP, its construction contract.
Well, I mean, they're gonna move forward with the construction on the residence halls. They don't need any further action on that. They just gotta go get the contract.
So, Mr. Chairman, or excuse me, Mr. Co-Chair, I just want to make sure we're clear. They're going to finish the dorms and they're not going to start those other two, construction on the other two without legislative authorization, but we want to be clear that they can continue with their construction docs and their planning process. Is that fair?
Correct.
Representative Larson.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify what you just said. When you says that they've got to finish the dorms, that doesn't mean that they have to be constructed before you do anything else. I just want to make sure that that is not what you meant.
Senator Hicks. Clarify.
That is correct. They just need to have them under contract so we know what the price is going to be. Does not have to be, the project does not have to be.
Otherwise, we'd be here 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I just got one other thing I want to verify with Senator Salazar that the appropriation for the 34 million for the Riverton office building is correct.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Please, Senator Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes. If I could, I think that in the long term, this is going to save the state money for this state office building in Riverton. And I also believe that this building in Riverton will attract and retain highly qualified employees in the central part of the state. And so for that, I want to commend the Joint Appropriations Committee for this this funding. Thanks.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. So that completes the list of tabled items. We are now on that order of business, member amendments. Senator Guru.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to move to reopen Governor's Letter number 1.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Senator Grew.
Governor's Letter number 1, I would like to move Gov's rec and further amend the figure from $1 million to $10 million.
Second, you've heard the motion to amend. Discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Representative Nicholas.
I'd make a friendly amendment to move that to 5 million. Or an amendment to the amendment.
There's been a motion to amend the amendment. Discussion. Senator Grew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We discussed this on our side at length and felt fairly strongly that depending, there's a lot of tax bills floating around out there, but that this program helps the people who need it most. And we wonder and question whether with all the different tax proposals out there, that if they may or may not carry on their own weight. If some pass that are better, that's great. But we wanted to have this money here because this money, like I say, this program has been proven to help the people who need it most. And that figure was the figure that we arrived at. And so I want to stick with the 10 million and do not consider a amendment to 5 million as a friendly amendment.
Further discussion. Representative Schwartz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, in the previous iteration, there was a footnote relating it to potential bills that might pass. Will that remain?
Senator Grew. I believe, if I can clarify, our footnote said that governor's letter would only kick in if no other property tax relief bill passed the legislature, correct?
Mr. Chairman, that is my understanding.
So the governor's letter is a fallback if nothing else happens. Senator Grew.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Larson.
So I appreciate this, but we just, when we had the agency here, we didn't have the director into what I heard her say is there was sufficient, there was carryover, they had some in there, that it was there for this next year, and didn't hear her say that there was any need to add any more. And so I'm just trying to understand why we couldn't just do that next year as part of the standard budget.
Senator Grew.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This program, 5 years ago, virtually had no support in this committee or in the legislature at all. And we just, have been trying to cobble together. This program has been around. Actually, it was started by Representative Clarion Law, but then went away when she went away from the legislature, and it was resurrected. And we funded it some years and we haven't. Across the state right now, property values are raising, and in some areas at a faster rate than others. And so I truly believe that this program will grow rapidly. I think that as it gets, frankly, it hasn't been advertised. It has been more of a word of mouth in the communities that have where the problem is most acute. I think that as the word gets out about this program and as property values rise, it will raise exponentially. And I believe that this money will be necessary.
Further discussion on, I wanted to call you Senator or Representative Don.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, this is to increase it by 9 million to 10 million. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So on the amendment to change the amount to 5 million, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
No. That motion passes. We are now back on the amended motion to amend the governor's letter to $5 million.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Hicks.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be a no on this vote. And I'm going to explain why is because this program is currently funded at 100% of the state's level. And yet we have counties that have mechanisms to provide property tax reliefs and they don't incur any burden and they derive property tax relief. And until the counties want to step up and provide it some type of relief. And my recollection is there's only one county in the state that has done that. I believe that's Teton County. And so I think there ought to be a shared responsibility for those that are deriving property taxes off of these individuals as far as a property tax refund program. And so until I see some equity and contributions and property tax relief, you know, we all heard a lot of talk last year from a lot of county assessors. But yet there's tools out there that the counties could help resolve this problem and 22 have chose not to. And until such time as that happens, I believe this is a shared responsibility, not solely on the backs of the state. And so I will be a no.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries. Move to close the governor's letter.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Further member amendments.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Larson.
I would move to open agent.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd move to open agency 10, Department of Agriculture.
Heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
And I don't know if this is this, I'll ask staff again, what I'm going to do, Mr. Chairman, is I'm going to ask for the appropriate mechanism. It may be a section 300 to put $500,000 into the state fair endowment fund as matching funds for one-to-one match from private sources.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's closed. All right, next. Representative Walters.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move for a section 300 and the motion is to it's a multi-stage motion, but it would be that there would be no tips from the reserve accounts to the corpus of the PMTF, the common school, the higher education, and the Hathaway. And the second part of the motion is then to transfer or to put into the reserve accounts, into the PMTF reserve account, 359 million and change, into the common school account, 274.7 million, into the Hathaway account, 4.6 million, and into the higher education account, higher education account, 1.2 million. Reserve account, on all of those, it's the reserve account. Common school amount is 274.7 million.
Polly's shaking her head.
Mr. Chairman, I think that one is for the PMTF.
I have those backwards. The common school is 359.1 million, Mr. Chairman. And the PMTF is 274.7.
Mr. Chairman, can we take a quick, we need to call this.
And Mr. Chairman, I have a copy of this if you would like
Yeah.
to take it with you.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a copy distributed and the Senate's going to caucus here for a couple minutes if we can get the copies of that so we can consider it in some detail. Be
Thank you,
helpful.
Mr. Chairman.
Stand at ease for 5 minutes. Clark's here also. Oh, they're all here. Okay, we're back. Representative Walters, we have the handout of the motion. Thank you for that. Senator Steinmetz, you had a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'm just very surprised by this. This is a huge policy consideration for, I believe, the entire legislature. I believe this is coming, something similar to this in a capital finance bill. And so I am a definite no on this because I think we were trying to get away from making big changes like this in our budget. And I think in the interest of transparency and all of our colleagues that will soon be in session with, we just really need to keep this out of the budget in a separate bill so it can be fully debated and understood. It's a very complicated issue, and CapFin has spent several years on this. And so I think it's not something I can support in this budget, and I would urge my colleagues to vote no.
Further comment? Representative Walters.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would say that it's not nearly as complicated. It's simply allocating money into these accounts as well as preventing the tip until the end of this biennium. This really isn't a major policy discussion. Preventing that tip, nor the policy discussion. The greatest one is, do we want to put money in the reserve accounts or just let it automatically flow to the LSRA, which is no more or less transparent than making a direct appropriation as this amendment does. So I strongly support it. That's why I brought it, and we'll see how the vote turns out. Thank you. And thank you to the good senator for the comments.
Well, I think we know how this is going to go. Senator Hicks previously moved on the governor's letter to put these funds into the permanent, and we lost on a 7-5 on that. I'll reiterate. These intercepts, it puts money on the table to spend. My first year here, I was shocked to see the interceptions that take place to prevent these permanent funds from growing and putting money on the table. And I get it. The intent is to put it in reserve funds and to not touch it. But when that money is available to politicians, certainly not this group, but future groups, it's going to be there to spend. Let's start with, and I'll give you Exhibit A, legislative stabilization reserve account. It's a reserve account and we spend liberally out of it and we backstop all kinds of expenditures on it. And for future generations' sake, I think we have to stop this practice of interception. So we'll be against, I fully expect to lose in a noble cause, but further discussion. Having heard the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Motion carries. Next member amendment.
That was for both of them. Don, I have a motion, and this has to do with the prison fund account. So I want to make sure I open the right section.
Mr. Chairman, I believe you're interested in a capital construction.
Just one second. Okay. It has nothing to do with it. Okay. Never mind. We're going to do it in January.
Okay, anyone else? I've got a couple of small ones. I'd like to reopen agency 085, the Wyoming Business Council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Don, I would like to add 85 is the Business Council to add $2.5 million to their Main Street program for projects to rehabilitate old schools. What were formerly schools. And for conversion into community centers. I have a particular project in mind, but I have to keep the language generic, so any community could apply. Discussion? 2.5 million. Discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Move to close. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Move to open 60, State Land Investment Board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Don, this would be a motion. There's a property known as Ranch A that is owned by the SLIB. And this would appropriate $1 million to rehabilitate and there's some overdue maintenance there. And that they are to transfer that property to the state parks.
Mr. Chairman.
Do they spend the 1 million before they transfer it? After they
Well,
transfer?
you know, let me see. That's a good question.
Mr. Chairman,
I'll work on this footnote a little bit later, but that's the concept. Senator Hicks.
where's the source of the appropriation? From both of your last two motions?
Legislative Stabilization Reserve Account, of course,
Mr.
just
Chairman.
general fund.
Mr.
General
Chairman,
fund. Yes.
if I could make a suggestion, these are construction projects and I think it'd be more appropriate to use SIPA funds. And if SIPA funds are not available.
Not quite enough.
But we don't know. We don't have a budget yet. But SIPA funds, and if they're not available, would be LSRA as the second backup.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment. He says to look first to SIPA funds, and if there's nothing available, LISRA secondary. I'll accept that as a friendly amendment. So Ranch A, State Parks has a number of these properties. There's the LX Bar in Sheridan that they have successfully rehabilitated. They're using them as tourist attractions. State Parks, I think, has done a good job on that sort of thing. This property is languished in SLIB and Ranch A could be a great tourist attraction, and $1 million to try and bring the thing up to snuff and give it a chance to succeed is a relatively minor price. Further discussion, Representative Walters.
Thank you. My question is just simply on the funding source. So currently, the way the budget is structured, we have a surplus. The surplus will flow into the LSRA and then it will flow right back out of the LSRA to fund these projects. Would it not be simpler to just use SIPA backfilled with general fund and avoid all of the flow in and out?
Well, it was Senator Hicks's motion. Senator Hicks, you want to help me out here? Phone a friend?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would like the idea that we would just do a global motion on that we don't do all these, but you know, this is not unusual to do this, is to move funds around and stuff. So I think it's pretty consistent with a lot of the processes we use. I would welcome any recommendations and to work on these things as far as the flow patterns on the money and where it ultimately ends up. But I think this is consistent with what we've done in the past. And so.
Representative Walters, I don't want the source of funding to stand between you and a yes vote. So I'm open to suggestion if you want to amend it.
Ask the question answered.
All right. Further discussion. Having heard the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Move to close agency 60. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Further member amendments. Further member amendments. All right. We'll move on to our final. Oh, Don.
Mr. Chairman, no amendments, but we do have actually 4 questions from yesterday's action, if I might.
All right. Shoot.
Don't necessarily require any action. The motion on the K-12 ECA started out with a deny the governor's rec, and it was not clear what was substituting there. After listening to that several times, we came to the conclusion that the intent was to insert the JAC's original position of $43.3 million. Just wanted to clarify if I am incorrect.
Yes,
Thank you.
I believe so. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, on the ARPA letter, which is Governor's Letter 18, I believe Representative Larson moved to address all of the additional spending, but there was no action taking on the two reversions, the $45 million that the governor was giving back from his allotment and the $2 million from WIHIS, or the Wyoming Home Services Program. Just wanted to clarify that that is included or not.
Representative Larson.
Mr. Chairman, and that was included in Governor's Letter number 8, I believe, in the ARPA fund, and I would fail to do that, and we had intended to adopt Governor's Rec on that to revert those back.
Would you like us to do that?
Your call, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to,
It's clear the intent because we spent the money.
Yeah, I think we're satisfied with that as a clarification, aren't you, Representative Larson? Okay, number 3.
number 3 is there was a approval of $35 million and subsequent motion, an increase of $5 million, a deposit from the general fund to the Wyoming's Tomorrow account. All of your actions here are effective immediate, but that one actually does make a little bit of a difference as to when the transaction occurs. Let me be more specific. Even if it says effective immediate, the state auditor technically has any time between April 2023 and June 30th, 2024. So essentially 15 months to make that deposit. So why do I care about this one? Well, the statute in there triggers when the scholarships occur based upon the balance. So this would be, delegating a fair bit of authority to the state auditor's office, depending on when she makes that deposit would depend on when the scholarships start. So if you wanted to make some more clarity with the deposit date, say not earlier than or not later than some specified date.
Whose motion was it? Representative Walters?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For clarity, I would make the motion that the deposit occur.
We need to reopen the letter.
I would move that we reopen the letter regarding Wyoming's Tomorrow, and I don't have the number in front of me.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, no. Please, Representative Walters.
So I would move that the $40 million that was previously approved, in yesterday's motion, be effective prior to June 30, 2023.
Second.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Motion carries.
Motion to close. As amended.
All that you've moved to close, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, agency closed. Number 4.
Number 4, Mr. Chairman, the committee denied both of the governor's letters related to retirement. But during the discussion, there was indication that the committee would be requesting draft legislation regarding a 1% increase on those retirement plans. Is that a formal request, and we can prepare a draft bill if you so desire?
We'll discuss that.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So there's one more letter, which is the judiciary, but where we are now is we're not going to take a vote on these 2 bills. We're going to get draft bills and review them. Is that correct, Mr. Co-Chair?
Correct.
Okay, so anything else, Don? Okay, the one remaining item of business, I believe, is the judiciary letter. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. We did send out a range of amendments, but it appears that there's no interest at this time on those. Thank you.
Okay. So the request was for $100,000 to plan the process, I believe, of this, essentially of this, for the Supreme Court to integrate the drug courts from the Department of Health into the court system. Do we have a motion to approve? Or
Mr.
deny?
Chairman.
Representative Larson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the judge's letter to for $100,000 of ARPA funds for that purpose you described, I would move to adopt and add language that said it's contingent upon the judiciary bill passing to move the drug courts over from Department of Health to judiciary before it's accessible.
All right, the second this, so did you move the letter? Okay, the letter's been moved and there's a proposal to amend. Having heard the amendment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, no. Motion carries. On the letter itself, which is a motion to approve as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Motion carries. And then what else is there?
Don,
Um,
We don't close that letter, do we? Okay.
So, Mr. Co-Chair, I'd like to just run through an outline of the draft bill that we'd like to see and just see if we have concurrence on having it drafted. And Don, basically, we want to do this, what we've done in the past is in order to increase the funding of the retirement, and we're talking about at this point where I think we're only talking about the big fund. If the employer contributes half and to get to 1% more, I think we're about 18.25% or something like that. We want to take it to 19.25. So if the employee contributes half of that increase to get to the 1% and the employer increases the other half, then the bill would essentially do that. And then so we'd like just, I think you have the mechanics of that bill because it's been drafted before, run through the numbers of what that's going to cost all the impacted parties in terms of education and all of us. And that would be effective at the time that the next pay raise goes into effect. So which we might right now is set for January 1st.
Mr. Chairman, I believe it's July 1st.
July 1st, I'm sorry, that's what I meant. So that would be the crux of the draft bill.
Mr. Co-Chair, I want to clarify because you opened with some things that threw me off a little bit. Simply stated, it's going to be 0.5% from the state and 0.5% from the employee.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Okay.
And then along with that, if we could have from retirement, what the impact of that is on the actuarial.
And Mr. Chairman,
Please.
if we could, when we have the WRS run that, also look at the impact of a 1% employer, 1% employee, in addition to the 0.5%.
So 1% plus a 2%. Right.
Yeah, I just want to look, so if we do a total of 1, half from the employer, half from the employee, what that does. And then also have them run that said if it was 1% from the employer, 1% from the employee. So rather
1%.
1 to 1 and 1's 2. You just have them run the numbers
Yeah, it'd be useful to see the numbers.
for comparisons.
Mr. Co-Chair, do you want to add a note that you want them to hire an actuary that will actually deliver on the conclusion you'd like to have?
They have an actuary.
I know, I'm just kidding. We good on that? Good on that, Don? Okay. Anything else? Anything else hanging out? So we will next be together when? January?
Actually, January 9th to hear more about reserve accounts at 9 o'clock.
January 9th. All right, until
And
then.
caucus on the 8th, right?
Okay, well, those are unofficial. I meant as a JAC. Yeah, Representative Stiff.
Mr. Chairman, I got the sense that we were about ready to
Yep.
wrap up. So if I wanted to ask Don if he knows if we could give kind of a summary of sort of what we've done the last couple of days, because I've got my running tally and I'm sure I'm wrong, but it looks to me like we just rough numbers. My sense of it is that on the governor's letters, we chopped out about 140 some million from what the governor wanted, but then we added back in $30 million for hospitals and water and sewer, and we added another 5 million for Wyoming's Tomorrow, and then we added a big chunk of 160 million of walking around money for the energy guy. Anyway, and then on the general supplemental budget, my numbers are that we mostly went along with the governor's recommendations, then we added in about 90 million bucks, but That's just my rough
I
numbers.
thought that was an outstanding summary.
So.
Are you looking for a job with the LSO Financial?
Wanted to ask Don if that's roughly accurate and what his numbers are.
And I would add to that, I'd like to know what we project the LISRA balance to be after all those actions.
Mr. Chairman, we will have to crunch these numbers, so these are quite preliminary. I do concur with Representative Stiff's high-level summary. I would also note a couple of takeaways that are not included on the profile per se. First is you have expended $160 million that was not available to the governor through the use of federal encumbrances. You basically took that money from the auditor's office and appropriated it for a contingency fund in the governor's office. Secondly, it appears that this committee saved approximately $479 million less in permanent savings than the governor did because of the $412 million to the permanent fund, the $68 million into the Wyoming retirement system. And then you had a little bit more in the Wyoming's Tomorrow and a little bit less in the cultural trust fund. So all in, that's about $479 million. I believe the total on the LSRA is approximately $1.5 million, largely due to the transfers out in Representative Walter's motion 15 minutes ago into those reserve accounts. So approximately a $1.5 million balance on the LSRA.
But Don.
Billion.
But for those transfers, what would the LISRA have been?
Mr. Chairman, just over $2 billion, 17 million.
Okay, thank you.
Finally, Mr. Chairman, and this is the one I'm most uncertain of, but I think Representative Stiff said approximately 90 million net new spending. We had, or I had 81.5. It doesn't surprise me that it may be somewhere in that neighborhood.
So Representative Stiff, does that give you what you're looking for?
Yes, thank you very much. Just hard to, my head spins when I try to keep track of all the things we've done.
So one item of housekeeping, could you have Heather email the reimbursement request to Senator Nethercott? And then we would be, Senator Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank the members of the JC. As someone brand new, you've been awfully patient with me, and this has been quite a learning curve in the last week. But I wanted to specifically say this is Representative Schwartz and Representative Kinner's last day on JC, and I served with both those members on in the other chamber, and it was a pleasure to serve with them. And I know they have served their constituency well, and I just wanted to wish them both the very best in the years ahead. So thank you.
Then finally, we have to extend a huge thank you to staff, Don, Elizabeth, Holly.
Catherine Camerati.
Catherine, another 3 years, I'll have it. I'm sorry.
Linda.
And Linda and Karen and Jackie.
State budget staff.
State budget staff. You're all very extraordinarily patient with us. And it's amazing. We can come in here early in the morning, late at night, weekends, and there you are. And it's just, it's not a service to us. It's a service to the state of Wyoming, which is a service really worth rendering. And we thank you very much for all your work. This meeting is adjourned.